All right, we will call this meeting to order now at 4:06 p.m. And the first order of business is roll call. So Trustee McMullins,
Here.
Trustee Khan,
Here.
Trustee Andrews is here, Trustee Clark,
Here.
and Trustee Capel.
Here.
All right, I see it's all staff in the room right now, so I imagine there's no public comment that anybody wants to make prior to our going into closed session, and that looks to be correct. So with that, I think we can go ahead and start our closed session. So we will do that here at 4:07 and be back hopefully within 45 minutes or so. Okay, we are back in session after our closed session at 6:24. We apologize for the length of that closed session. It went longer than we thought it would as well. Like I said, it was a very productive session, and we're making headway. And here's what I'd like to announce regarding the closed session. The board in closed session has identified a candidate for the permanent library director and has established parameters for contract negotiations. Furthermore, the board has authorized the ad hoc search committee to make any refinements necessary in that process. In the event of a successful negotiation, the contract will be voted on at a future regular meeting. So we'll continue to hold the applicant in anonymity here until we get through a few things, which is the right thing to do. And we have, like I said, made very good progress, and keep our fingers crossed that this will go well. So
You're going to have negotiations in a closed session again?
no, we'll do it. The vote would be a public vote when we get to that
But
point.
I mean, are we going to have to wait another 2 hours while you guys negotiate in a closed session?
No, the contract negotiations are going on. We'll go in process right away.
Okay.
And
Congratulations.
so yeah, from now on it'll be open business regarding that for this particular one. Remember, we still got to get it done and so on. Okay, with that, now we can get back to our agenda.
Good work.
Thank you.
I think the congratulations deserves to go to the entire community. Let's just get through this last little level of detail, and I think everybody will be quite happy.
I certainly will.
Thank you, Greg.
But we're not to the finish line, everybody.
That's right. We're trying to get there.
All right. That's a reportable action, so that takes care of item number 3. And now we are on to open session, the approval and reordering of agenda items and the adoption of the agenda. So do we have any approvals we'd like to?
So I'd just like to make a motion to amend item, so I'd like to make a motion to amend item 9A to the review and approval of the resolution outlining the updated records retention policy. Word resolution is left out of the agenda, that's basically all it is.
Okay.
I'll second.
Motion, okay, great. All in favor, please raise your hand, say aye.
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 Motion carries. So the next would be the adoption of the agenda. Well, I guess that took care of everything, right?
Nope, that was just the item, so now I'm going to move that we adopt the agenda.
Okay, and before we do that, is there any discussion about the agenda?
No, it's good.
Okay, so it's been moved. I'm sorry, I didn't wait for a second.
Awesome.
Okay. So all in favor of adopting the agenda, please raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
And that motion carries. And now we've got a public comment on non-agenda item, and we've got David Datz who'd like to speak.
Shall I go to the mic?
Yes, sir, please.
This is David.
Yeah, hi, I'm David Datz, and a couple of things. First, as a private citizen, I would like to thank you for the job you're doing. I know that this can be an onerous responsibility, and as far as I can tell, you're all doing a splendid job. I appreciate it. I came here to talk about the collection, principally my concern that it's too small. I know many people who, well, as you know, you don't have to show residence to get a library card anymore. And I know many people who, frankly, don't come here anymore to get books. They go to Pasadena. I myself go to Pasadena more often than I'd like to. I have 4 library cards myself. I have LA City and LA County, which I use for ebooks because they're too far away, but they're good for ebooks. And of course I get ebooks here and I get ebooks from Pasadena. But when I want a hardcover book, it's kind of hard to come here, and I know more and more people who say that. I've talked to a lot of people. Beyond personal preference, and I know there's room for debate about this, I'm not a librarian, about how big the collection should be and the role of the modern library and so forth, but what concerns me more is in 4 years' time, you're going to have to get the parcel tax renewed. Now, 5 years ago, in 2014, we got through with a whopping 85%. I'm very proud that I was part of that. The first time in 1994, it was, I think, about 80%, which was talked about all across the state during an anti-tax era. And in 2004, we were in the low 70s. As you know, you need 2/3. And assuming that there is nothing on the ballot next year that changes the local requirement from 2/3 to 55%, you probably know about that effort. I think that's probably a long shot. That's my personal opinion. If it passes, you're in good shape, but if it doesn't pass, then you still have to get that 2/3 majority, and I don't think you can take it for granted. And if you don't have people coming here, as a matter of course, to look at books, to browse at books, to check books out, then I worry that the other activities that you're doing, I was at the planning session a couple of weeks ago. I couldn't stay for all of it. But all of those things, which I don't say anything negative about, all those things might be enough to develop the loyalty and the recognition of the importance of the library, so that in 4 years' time, when you go to people and beg them to please vote for the parcel tax, that you'll get a positive response. But I worry that it might not be. So if you don't have people habitually coming here for books, you might have a problem. And I don't have to tell you that without the parcel tax, everything else you're doing might as well not be done. You know? And if you're gonna go the way of ebooks and meetings, I'm sorry, I'm almost done. If you're gonna go the way of concentrating on ebooks and outreach and meetings, then it becomes a community center with ebooks, and people don't have to come here for ebooks. And maybe that's enough. Anyway, that's my concern. Thanks for giving me the chance to voice it, and thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dess. And those are all well-taken comments, believe me. Okay. Now we're on to number 5 of the consent calendar, and this would be to approve all of the items in the consent calendar, approval of minutes from the last special meeting and the last regular meeting, and then also departmental monthly reports. So as last time, I'd like to get a motion and a second for approving this, but we could have some discussion before we do.
So moved.
I'll second.
Okay, so it's been moved and seconded then to approve the consent calendar. Does anyone have any discussion about the items in them? This is the point often where we'll remark on individual reports and so on.
Is the director's report included?
No.
Is that,
No,
that's
that will come
line
later,
item, right?
yeah. I had one question, and while folks are asking about this, the report from Technical Services, there was a mention by Carlene about the Southern California Library Cooperative And I'm not sure if I know all of the things, all the ways that we're engaged with that institution, so I just wanted to ask a general question about that. This was regarding the DigiLab project.
Yeah, the Southern California Library Cooperative is a group of Southern California, obviously, libraries that convenes quarterly with all the directors. But they also have, they oversee some of the grants, or they administer some of the grants that are given to us from the state library. So that DigiGrant is one of those that they administered among the consortium. They're also, within SCLC, there's also committees, subcommittees that our staff becomes involved with, whether it's IT or circulation or collection, or, so it's a very active organization in many, many ways.
Okay, great.
I'd like to just shout out to Amanda Toledo coming down off of summer reading, which is just always an incredibly busy and exciting time in the children's room, but that, you know, she's kind of carrying that with staff vacancies, and it just sounds like it was fabulous, as it is every year, but I know it took a huge amount of extra effort to make that happen this year, I'm sure. And also to welcome Helen to that department. Kate, that's great.
I'd like to note a couple of things on the IT report. So Christopher, thank you for that. One is that it's great to see the new computers in the library and over at Bob Lucas. They look beautiful. I had the opportunity to use one at Bob Lucas to try to get some stuff happening for the strategic planning committee meeting that we had over there. It was flawless. It worked beautifully. I just put in my library card number and like everything was awesome. And it was really nice. And then also to convey our sort of collective crossed fingers for the Pasadena Community Foundation grant that has been applied for. So $25,000 to kind of get us basically some technological infrastructure services that would enhance our meeting room capabilities and some of our open study spaces. So fingers crossed, we hope that works out. But across the board, it's great to see all the upgrades. And of course, I know it's basically done now, but the RFID project is awesome. And I have had people come up to me and say, I just put my books on the thing and it knows what they are. And I'm like, yeah, that's sort of the whole premise. They're like, how does it know? It's like, it's a secret, I can't tell. Yeah, it's magic.
I just would like to applaud all of the reports in here, and especially the one for Bob Lucas. You've got 14 programs with 289 participants, and then the adult services for 13 programs and 179 attendants in the month of July. I mean, you're doing extraordinary work, and you know, the volunteers that are still coming and doing the work of the library. And although we might talk about, you know, people are not coming, the statistics say something totally different. And I applaud you for the work that you're doing, because hopefully when we go back to trying to get a parcel tax, they'll be looking at all of these kinds of statistics. So thank you so much for what you do.
Just a couple of quick things. Just want to bring some attention and highlight, you know, the work that Jonathan continues to do on the facilities and slowly chipping away at all those issues that are identified in the facilities report within our budget as we continue the process of kind of the much broader facilities things that we want to address. So I wanted to just highlight that. And then, you know, one of my personal things is a goal that I hope we all share is really strengthening and building our relationships with Pasadena Unified and figuring out ways that we can work together, work more productively together. So it was good to see in the children's report that we participated in the program at Jackson Elementary and that Welcome Back to School, and use that as an opportunity to kind of build some relationships with parents and whatnot. So for me, it was good to see that, and hopefully we'll continue to do more of that work.
Okay, if there's nothing else, we'll get a vote now for approving the consent calendar. So, all in favor, please raise your hand and say aye.
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 All right, and that motion carries. Now we're on to number 7, which is reports, and we'll start with the reports from the support group, beginning with the Altadena Library Foundation. And again, my apologies for running so late, everybody.
You know, you don't have to apologize when you do something. That's great. It's when you come back and you can't tell us anything. I do want to just thank you. I want you guys to all know how much I appreciate that you invite reports from Foundation and Friends, because it's just always good to communicate what we're doing. Right now, we're working on organizing our annual planning retreat. And there we hope to create a plan for moving forward, hopefully based on your strategic plan as best as can happen. And at the risk of sounding like a broken record, I do want to acknowledge the tremendous amount of work that the co-chairs and planning team are doing to ensure a very successful Taste of Dena this year. Our theme, Magical World of Books, will feature a local magician and a super musical trio, and of course wine from umpteen sources, as well as some food bites from local places this year, including the Little Red Hen, the Park Bench Grill, the Foxes, Sweet as Honey, Trader Joe's, and others. Additionally, we'll have a wine pool and another fabulous silent auction. So, I know the burning question on all of your minds right now is, how can I help? Thanks for asking. We're giving each of you a yard sign. Yeah, and we want you to put it in your yard, or someone else you know who has better visibility. We can take that, and there's no charge for that. We're also going to give each of you a flyer, and we're not going to charge you for that.
Here, we'll pass.
Post them wherever. Now, what will cost you, however, Jason, you hit the nail on the head, is a ticket to attend. So you can currently go online, purchase your tickets, $50 each, table for $500. You can sponsor for $1,000 or more. We will accept gifts of $5,000 if any of you are so moved. I could wait right now. If you want to get your phones out or your tickets, we can take a couple of minutes to do that. Actually, we just really do hope that this is the year that we pull out all the stops and we really bring in the funding we need to support what we know are going to be urgent, critical needs in the coming 2 to 3 years. So thank you. We are counting on your support.
Bridget,
Yes.
if other people want to get a yard sign because they're so inspired, where do they get one?
Probably right here, or email me.
Okay.
We can bring them here. I'll deliver them to your home. Leslie Dank, from who serves on our board, has them in her home right
Okay.
now. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Bridget.
And the flyer is already online, is that right?
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
thank you.
Next is the Friends of the Library. Is that you, Joy? Okay, great.
Good evening, I'm Joyce Rayer and Vice President of the Friends of the Altadena Library. Our President Claire is in England for a few days. She'll be back later this week. The Friends are very sad to announce the death of a long-time member, former president of the Friends, and a board member for many, many years. Elizabeth Ivers was a lover of cats and books, and she had a wonderful sense of humor and a very sharp wit, and she will be greatly missed. We would like to thank the board again for the certificate recognizing the Friends' 60th anniversary. The certificate is now framed and is displayed on the wall in the bookstore. That was Gwen's suggestion. Thank you, Gwen. And we invite all of you to stop by and have a look, and a sincere thank you to Jonathan for mounting it on the wall. The staff at the library really is a very special group of people, and I'm sure you know that. Plans for the November 2nd, 60th anniversary party are progressing. This is going to be a unique event where individuals may sign up to give a short promotion of their favorite book, and judges will determine who the best advocate is. Everyone is welcome, whether as an observer or a participant, and there will be prizes and food and drink and a book swap. So more information will be available closer to the event, but it should be a fun party, and everyone is invited to attend, whether you are a member of the Friends or not. One of the things the Friends is currently trying to do is to create a historical archive. We should have lots over for the past 60 years, but the early records are somewhat limited, very sketchy actually. So if anyone has any historical information, including pictures, articles, whatever, and would be willing to share that information, we would be very appreciative of that. On September 7th and 8th, we are having a huge book sale here in the parking lot of the library. There will be about 20,000 books, plus CDs and DVDs, and a number of other items, including, I think, some leftover furniture from the library. Saturday morning from 10 to noon will be members only, but you can become a member by paying $10 at the gate. And then everyone is welcome from noon to 5 p.m. That's on Saturday, and then on Sunday from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. We've also ordered new Friends t-shirts and tote bags, and those will be available for sale. In addition to our work always constantly on books, the Friends have participated in several recent library-sponsored events. Claire's talk on Mars and the Women in Science panel discussion were very well attended, and we're extremely interested. We're rather proud of Claire. Friends had a small science fiction book stand at the Space Movie Night, which was recently a couple of weeks ago. And Robert and Patty Muir and board member Diane Moore represented the Friends at the Hidden History event at the Bob Lucas Library yesterday. So that's all I have for tonight. Thank you. We hope to see you all at the book sale. It's a time that you can load up on reading material for the upcoming fall and winter seasons. So thank you.
Joy, before you go, I just had a couple questions. One, I was intrigued by the archive idea, and I'm just wondering, how are you putting the word out to draw that material from the community?
Well, we have not actually done that yet. I think that Claire intends to send out an email, and maybe something could be posted in the Connect in the library newsletter. For a long time, the library administration maintained the records for the Friends, and over the years, some of that material, unfortunately, has disappeared. Occasionally, there will be things found in a file cabinet. We're trying to collect everything. We have a file cabinet in the sorting room downstairs, and everything we get, we put in there. We're pretty good for the past maybe 12 or 15 years. Marnie has done a good job, and I think I have pretty complete records for the time that I've been involved. But those early years, we have some materials, but there must be a lot more out there.
I'm just thinking, people have photo albums at home with some
Yes.
event that they came to in 1951. That
Yes.
might be interesting.
So,
I would
because-
really encourage you to see if you can connect with Connect.
Yes,
And make that
yes.
happen. The other thing I wanted to ask is if you would, I didn't know Elizabeth Ivers, but if you think it would be appropriate from us for condolence to come to her family.
She didn't, well, she has a couple of cousins,
Mhm.
one who lives in San Diego, one who lives in New York, and there were a group of friends and friends board members who had a little memorial for her a couple of weeks ago, and then just this past week with her two cousins, there was a second memorial, but I don't really know to whom you would address that.
And I'll feel the condolences.
Yes, she was a character and wonderful, and we all really
I'm
enjoyed
so
being
sorry
around
I
her.
didn't know
Yes.
Thank you.
Joyce, just one more question. Do you still have any need for volunteers with the book sale? Or is
Yes.
Whoops,
Yes.
we do.
that- Okay.
There usually are probably 10 to 12 board members or very active Friends members who come, but UNI is absolutely fantastic at getting volunteers. We usually have the Boy Scouts. The Boy Scouts are coming again. They are here for the setup and the tear down, which is the most critical time. Those of us who've been around a long time are not really capable and shouldn't be lifting boxes of books and that sort of thing.
So just email Uni if any of us are
Uni,
available to help.
I am sure that she would be delighted to have anyone sign up who is interested. She's very good about getting, although at this time of year, there probably aren't too many students who are trying to hurry up and fulfill their community service requirements, which we have in May, yes. We always have a lot of those students in May who have waited until the very end to do what they're supposed to do. So, but we love volunteers, so anyone who would like to come and help, we would be very pleased and grateful to have them.
Thank you, Joy. All right, next is Director's Report.
Good evening, everyone. Couple things to report. We're in the process of recruiting for 2 library managers for children's services and adult services. And we thank you for the kudos to Amanda. She really is holding down the fort at the Children's Services Department as the acting manager. And we're also recruiting for a library associate in the children's room and a library page. We recently subscribed to Government Jobs, which is a job search engine that allows us to post our positions and gives us a far-reaching range to people that are interested in government jobs. At the suggestion, or at the, I guess I had a conversation with Trustee Clark about 24/7 access to libraries, and realized that we did not have the ability to get online cards. And that's especially important for people that can't get to the library and want to use our online resources. So Christopher, who you'll hear from in a minute, quickly put together a process by which you can get a card and access all our electronic resources. If you have a card already, you can have 24/7 access to the resources, but if you don't and you can't, it's a last minute thing and you want that ebook, and you can sign up at catalog.altadena.library.org. And I think that it's a long time coming, so we are now truly a 24/7 library. We've been looking at passport services and this business model behind passport services, and as I said in my report, it costs us about $100,000 a year to run our passport office, not including overhead, and we make about $18,000. And that's a good amount of money, but I think we could do more. So Stella and I did a little reconnaissance and visited a couple libraries that have passport services, and many of them make $200, $250, and sometimes it's a matter of location, but people that come to our passport services office come from all over the area because it's sometimes a more pleasant experience than other places where you can get passwords. So we're going to put into place, we already have had an uptick in the numbers just by going in-house with our phone service. But we'll be doing some other things. We'll be expanding the walk-in service, which we did not have before. Signage improvements we've already done. More advertising via social media, print. More prominent presence on the website. More staff training so the staff can be well informed if someone calls or comes in and asks questions. So I'm really excited that I think we're going to be doing even better than they've been doing before. And a couple things that weren't in my report, and that is that Carlene Chu will be taking over as the acting manager at Bob Lucas during Diana Wong's maternity leave. And really good news, the state library sponsors something called the Public Library Staff Education Program, and they grant, it's through a grant process. A person has to write a grant in order to get support to go to library school. And so they offer up to $6,000 a year in tuition if you're lucky enough to get this award. And Altadena has two people that have been recently awarded the PLSEP award. Mark Parsons, who's the library associate in tech service, and Helen Kate, who's also a library associate in children's services. So I'm delighted that we can grow from within. I mean, it's just fantastic. It's a fabulous program, and it was on hiatus last year. We didn't think it was going to come back, but it's back. It's been in existence for over 10 years, I think. And then finally, I gave you a preliminary summary of some of our statistical indicators at Bob Lucas over 18-19 fiscal year. And these are numbers that we report to the state on an annual basis. This is cumulative. It includes both libraries. Once we prepare the report, which I think will be due in October, then we'll give you a breakdown by site, and we'll give you a lot more information. But anyway, I think the library is doing well in terms of our numbers. In terms of our indicators, you can see, 2,600 people came to school-age programs over the year. Wireless sessions, 84,000 people coming in and using our wireless services. Users of public internet computers, I mean, this is astounding, 117,000 have taken advantage of that. And these aren't distinct people, these are sessions. Correct, Christopher, they're sessions. Books added, 11,000, total books held, 65,000. So you can see the numbers are robust. Next month we're working on a summary, and I've seen it, and I didn't include it this month, but we did, Christopher was able to track down a summary of our statistics, the primary statistics over the last 14 years, I think. 15 years, and our numbers are going up in many areas, that in many libraries they're going down, such as circulation and gate counts. So I'll bring that to you next month. This is my teaser for that. But so, any questions?
I just think it's important to get that out there. I wish David was still here, because there's been a lot of changes, right? Books have been moved around, different stuff like that, just to experimenting with how do we continue to see these numbers go up. And I could see how visually it could seem like we've reduced the collection or stuff like that just because of the changes. But it's good to see, and I think even in our month-to-month board reports, we see where 200 patron requests have been processed and booked to order. And, so I think it's good to see these numbers. And then, I think the other thing that's going to help with this perception is some of the amended job titles we've done recently, and kind of making sure we have the correct amount of focus on our public outreach so that people know about that. And especially the 24/7 thing, I think hopefully that'll help people see they don't have to go down to Pasadena, because now they can come here anytime they want.
Yeah. And thank you for the 24/7. I'm personally blown away that it happened so fast, because we talked about it not that long ago, and I thought this will take some time to implement. It's amazing to me that sitting at home, on a computer from anywhere in Altadena, you can get a library card and get access to resources right away. And I think for us to stay competitive as like an on-demand service, that's essential. And I'm just I'm astonished that it happened so rapidly.
Thank
Like
you
a
to
bond
Christopher.
Yeah, well, thank you very much.
But you also need to know that any day you pass by this library, the parking lot is always full. I think we miss some of that, because it is. People are here, and they come, and they stay, for whatever their reasons are, they're here. And that parking lot is always available and full. In fact, I've heard people say to me, I'd rather come to this library than to go to the Pasadena one, because I can't ever find a parking place.
Yeah. Well, it's one reason, Gwen, I think you nailed it on the head, that like, some of these statistics are so helpful and important, and I'm really happy we're gonna see an expanded version of them, because all of us have our own selection bias of the people we know and the people we talk to, and anecdotal evidence is convincing because it tracks with our experience, but having some of these statistical benchmarks to let us know
That's very
that, you
important.
know, what's actually happening in our libraries is critical, so thank you for that.
Thank you.
And one statistic I didn't highlight, to Gwen's point, is the library visits, 183,000.
Yeah.
I'm doing
people
some math
walking,
on
and
that.
they're not distinct, once again, but 183,000 people walking through our doors at both Bob Lucas and
I just did some quick
It's
math, that's like
amazing.
600 people a day. That's a lot of
right.
people. It's
I
not
think that's
amazing.
twice the size of Peoria,
Absolutely.
which is pretty impressive.
Now, there's some trivia for you.
That is a fun fact.
Yeah, I'm not, I just pull that out of the air. But I concur with everybody. It's really nice to see these numbers laid out that way. In the past, I kind of do some number crunching myself, and it's great to get it in context too. Cindy, I know you've seen a lot of library statistics before, so it's nice to put some color on that. And Betsy's always saying, don't give up on books and her librarian experience. So I see all of that in these numbers, so thanks very much.
Absolutely.
And the one statistic I just realized we don't have on here, and I'll get it, is circulation, how many books check out. So we'll get that next time, because that's a good number too.
Thank you.
And that's great.
So now I would like to introduce Christopher Kalmeyer, who is the wizard behind all our technology. And he's going to give us a presentation about what he does and how he helps us out.
It's amazing.
Afraid it would end up in the garage.
Oh, I love that.
Oh, my goodness.
Trying to be cool, you know.
Yeah, you are always cool.
Information Technology Department, Christopher Kellmeyer, our team manager. All right, we'll make this snappy. So, this is what the IT department is generally in charge of. Say generally, not everything is on here, but you know, a lot of the big stuff.
There's more?
Yeah. This right here, micro and macro. Micro would be like direct interaction, or macro support would be more widespread indirect interactions, such as supporting maybe a marketing manager on real-world DNS entries for the website. So,
Oh, my.
and importance, Cindy had cited some of those numbers. Wi-Fi connections, that's actually the number of IP addresses that were issued out to public devices. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
It is
Here.
amazing.
Computer usage, also quite astounding.
Sorry, can I ask though, Christopher, does that mean every time I come here and my phone connects to the Wi-Fi, that's one?
That's a tick, yeah.
So that's not 65 times it got connected to, that's 65 people, 65,000 people and however many times they got connected?
If they, okay, Okay, so if you came in here 365 days, it'd be 365 would be added to that.
Yeah, that's what I
Yeah.
mean.
Yeah, computer usage, that's actually quite an astounding number considering that like we really cranked up our time frame that a person can sit at a computer. One of the goals I've had is that when patrons come into libraries is, oh, you've got 1 hour or 2 hours on the computer. And I wanted it to be where we have so many computers that they're never completely deployed or being used. Not deployed, but completely being used. So we cranked that number way up. So even cranked up to where a person can sit down 5, 8 hours on a computer, we still have numbers like that.
Wow.
Yeah. So Wi-Fi is really huge here. Wi-Fi or air conditioning goes out here. This is what the library's gonna look like. No pressure. Let that bad energy go now. So, some recent initiatives. Well, we deployed iMac computers. We reinstated mobile hotspots. Yeah, we're doing some upgrades on staff computers. I'm looking forward to this one, virtual reality programs. And we're retooling the statistics and really getting down into some long-term statistics. And you can thank Cindy for pushing for that. And she's really asked for some cool stuff from me, and it's been fun to actually do that stuff.
Great.
Can
and
I
then there's
interrupt
the
you again, Christopher? I'm sorry. I don't understand how mobile hotspots work or what our involvement with them is.
Okay, so yeah, the mobile hotspots are wireless hotspots that patrons can check out for 7 days and renew it if there's no holds pending, and they can have internet at home. It's very useful for people who are economically unable to have internet at home and maybe need to apply for jobs or something like that. So they can have internet at home courtesy of the library through that program.
How would I know about that?
Well, you need to read our
I may cancel my.
monthly newsletter. It's been in there many times.
Well,
So nobody needs to sit outside the library
That's
to try to
amazing.
get
It is amazing.
internet
It is
connections. They
I had
can
no
do
idea.
that at home.
Yeah.
Borrow.
There's more cool stuff on the way.
How long do they check out for, Christopher?
It's 7 days with the option to renew if there are no
Holy
holds
moly, that's
for another 7 days.
Yes,
What's
it
the
is.
circulation like? I'm sorry, we're all about mobile hotspots
Oh,
now,
okay.
but what's like the circulation
Yeah.
on
With 7 days, it's too early right now to tell, but we had it before, but there was too much theft, and then what Cindy recommended was to make them sign a form, and we're going to see what happens.
that? Okay.
But before it was 40 to 50 a month on the circulation, pretty good.
That's good.
Yeah.
So is it an actual phone you check out?
It's a small square. It's like a little brick that you power on, and you connect to the SSID of the hotspot Wi-Fi network. If I recommend you go to the information desk and ask to see one.
Okay. And if you steal it, does it just work forever?
No, if it goes into lost, stolen status, I go into a portal and I disable it, and then
And so then people
Yeah.
just don't press
so they
that.
have a break at that point.
So what is the cost on that?
Okay.
Sorry.
Cost There's 11 hotspots. To me, it was like,
I mean,
this is
all
just
the
a
little,
mediocre
the
initiative,
little
but it's
small
11.
things.
The hotspots, yeah, the cost for the device
Yeah,
is
what
very
is it?
cheap. We
Yeah.
get it through TechSoup. It's, for 10 of them, it's like $54, but
Oh,
we pay for
wow.
the service $10 a month. So
Right.
one device would be $120 per year for the service, which has to be paid up front. So 10 devices, $1,200 plus the 54.
Very good.
But you've gotten a discount on that rate in the past, right? On that?
That's the discount rate. It's
Okay.
extremely discounted. You're gonna pay $40 to $80 a month for unlimited Wi-Fi access, and these are unlimited
Wow.
4G LTE.
No, it's expensive. I had one for a while and it was awesome, but it was super expensive.
Yeah, so it's an unbelievable rate that we're getting.
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay, so upcoming initiatives, we got some server upgrades on the horizon. The board would be concerned with this one, because I'll be asking for a motion on that, because that would be over 10,000. But it'd be really great because long-term we'll end up saving money. And then probably that one right there. There'll be some board activity on the updated the electronics policy.
So the PA system is, you're out in the library, somebody comes on and says, there's an emergency, you need to leave the building, that kind of PA system?
Cooler than that. It's gonna be, yeah, it's gonna be able to broadcast inside the library and outside the library, and also the bands that play will hook up into the PA system and be able to project their song inside, which saves money because the bands charge for using their PAs.
So surround sound.
Yeah, so that'll save us money long-term. Maybe it'll be a recoup of over 2.5, 3 years, but that money will be coming back to us ultimately, depending on the number of musicians that play.
Wow.
Bookmark right there. Okay, so those are upcoming initiatives.
Okay.
And this is what I was really looking forward to, this is why we're so special here with our IT stuff. Some of this stuff is overlap with other libraries. Other libraries do offer about 25% of this, but 75% of this is pretty unique to Altadena Library District. So virtual reality and 3D printing, there's quite a few libraries that offer that. We have an agile public hardware deployment. What I mean by that is that if you go into a lot of libraries, you'll see that the computers are on a fixed stand. But here, if we have events, we can unplug a single cord from the ground and move those computers out of the way, make our space more agile. That's really awesome. We also have several different types of operating systems in play. We have the Mac OS, Chromebooks, Linux computers, and Windows. Most IT people don't want to manage a mixed fleet, but I kind of like that. 1 gigabit unthrottled Wi-Fi access. A lot of libraries, they throttle their wireless. I was recently in Montecito, went to their library and checked out the speed, and they're throttling at about 10 to 15 megabits per second. Here, I monitor our backbone throughput, and we're doing quite well. So we remain unthrottled if someone can come in and use 300 megabits per second. It's available, which is why we have such a tremendous Wi-Fi presence. We have print over Wi-Fi, and a lot of libraries have that. With our print over Wi-Fi, you can also print from home by uploading the document to that print over Wi-Fi website, coming in and going straight to the printer.
What? Wait.
You heard that correct.
You don't have to.
This is my signature.
Email.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
Now that's pretty exciting.
Yeah, that's been around for a while.
This is wonderful.
Some substantial capability to customize our ILS. A lot of libraries are at the mercy of the third-party vendors they use for their integrated library service. We have quite a bit of flexibility, not complete dominion over it, but pretty substantial control over ILS and what we can do. We have a lot of cool things running on in the background that make life easy.
So by that, you mean the catalog and the patron database and, I mean, the thing that runs the library system?
That's right, yeah. We have a very dedicated, hands-on staff. If you go upstairs and just watch the staff, they're always helping the patrons on the computers. And that's very nice. Like I was saying earlier, no limits on computer time. We have this really cool feature here, which I think we're actually grandfathered in. I don't think Microsoft offers it anymore for other libraries wouldn't be able to even get in on this, but we jumped in as one of the first. I think maybe, yes, one of the first two in the nation that did that. And you can have Office 365 Pro Plus installed on up to 5 devices, if you have a library card, and 1 terabyte of storage in the cloud.
I gotta stop paying $6 a month.
Yeah, that's it's about $120 to $160 in value, and if all 42,000 Altadeans use it, it'd be worth millions, really.
So wait, sorry.
Yes, you don't have to pay for
That's a
Microsoft
lot
You
Office.
know,
of information here.
Our unified response to your report, Christopher, is, wait, what?
I know.
Wait, what? I could bring my laptop in here and you could install?
You can install it yourself from home.
Even better.
Yeah.
What?
I gotta,
Okay.
Go to the catalog, log into your account, go to the bottom, click on Enable Office 365, and you'll get an email. And just follow the instructions, and you're good to go.
I'm
Once a day,
actually closing my
that
jaw.
script runs, and then looks to see who's enabled it, and it's a little robot that I built. Like Kyla was saying,
This would be
one of
a
my
good
children.
time to ask for a raise.
But you,
No, he has robots doing all his work. He doesn't need a raise.
I got robots doing work.
you didn't install that on my computer, did you? No,
I don't think so.
I don't think so either.
This is really cool. I mean, like, I actually had other libraries ask me about this, and I explained it to them and sent them all the information. They're like, nah, I don't want to do it. But I'm a PowerShell expert, so I'm able to build these scripts that connect everything together, including the ILS, to like manage this on its own. I don't even have to touch anything. It's just on autopilot.
that's cool. I'm saving my
Thanks so
$6.
much for
Yeah.
the raise, right?
Yeah.
Back
Hang on
up,
a
we're
second.
not done with that slide.
No, there's gonna be
I
more
held
ways for
the
me to
button
save
too
money,
long.
I'm worried about
Let
it.
me go back.
You know, if you need any help knowing how to use PowerPoint,
Betsy has a robot, she can load it.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, I hit the wrong button. So, user install capabilities. This is another thing that other libraries, I don't think they have it. I haven't actually gone to find out, but I don't think they have it. You can go on our Windows computers and install whatever you want, and then when you end your session, it wipes it. So,
No, they definitely don't have that, because my son has gone to many other libraries and
Yeah.
tells me he can't install his game that he wants to play.
yeah,
He
so
can only do it here.
the other IT guys, they asked me, hey, aren't you worried about this? And I was like, no, don't they bring in their own devices that they install whatever they want already and connect to our network? It's nonsense, so. So yeah, this is great. Come in, kids love to go into the children's area and install Roblox. And then after their session's over, Roblox is gone.
is it mostly games? Is that what it mostly is?
Whatever the user wants, they want to install like 3D editing software. I allow up to 15 gigabytes of swap space on the hard drive. And so that's quite a bit.
And it doesn't matter if it's a Mac or an HP or whatever.
It does matter. The user install capabilities is for the Windows desktops. Large computer displays. I challenge you to go to any library and find larger displays than we have. It's kind of absurd how large ours are. 24-inch on the Windows PCs and 27-inch on the iMacs. But that makes us even cooler. And it also helps with people who have visual impairments. We have our RFID. A lot of libraries have that, but ours is the coolest RFID. And you can ask the staff who do the check-ins in the morning how much easier that's made life for them. Get a nod over here. Okay. The Homebrewed professional website. This isn't something I take care of. It's the marketing manager, but that is a kind of an IT type of component that we have, and it's fantastic. What we saw a lot of when we had our team get together and determine how the website should be was that all the coolest and best websites, once you drill down past the landing page, they just kind of spiraled out of control and fell apart, and there was no continuity all the way through. Ours is continuity all the way through. That's really awesome for that. Then we have an in-house IT department, which is not always the case. A lot of libraries suffer at the mercy of being at the city's or county's IT department. And, we have some goals of being a 24/7 no limit library. All right, I took a lot longer than I thought, so any questions here?
Sorry, I didn't hold my questions.
I have one more.
Yeah.
So I think we've seen in a couple of in the report section a couple times that there's, you're looking into some digital signage.
Oh, yeah.
Can you just say a little bit about that too, just so we have a little bit more of a picture of what is coming?
Yeah, it was a pretty out there idea. I really wanted to get holograms in the library. I wanted to have like a hologram that was greeting people. And then I realized that.
He's got real robots, you might as well have virtual robots.
I found out that those kind of holograms don't really exist yet. When you see Tupac or Michael Jackson dancing up there, it's actually a trick with a projector and mirrors. It's not an actual hologram, so unfortunately. But I did find these whirling signs that we could put externally that would show some kind of display, and I don't really want to relinquish that yet. That's why you keep seeing it on there. But I will eventually circle back and try to pin down like an official cost on that, and see if it's something that is something we really want to do. Maybe the community would have pushback, because if they see some kind of thing floating up near our sign that's animated, they might say, well, this is not really us. And Altadena kind of takes away from the naturalness of the trees or something. I don't know, I was thinking about that. But that's what that is.
Light up our Christmas trees, did you?
So, one of the things, real quick, that Cindy wanted me to show you was that some of our heat maps that we did, she asked me to get all of our patrons that use the library and show a map of the concentrations of different census tracts.
Wow.
So if I just click on like, let's say you want to know where most of our children patrons have reside and have been using our library, you can see a heat map by census tract.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
You can see the quantity from that year, and some of this has some loss because of geocoding and things like that.
Yeah, and that's just for Maine though, right?
That's for Maine.
There was a link for Lucas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm wondering who these guys are over here.
Yeah, 24/7 no limit.
San Francisco there. So yeah, that was for Maine. Take these ones off. So I can pop open another one here.
Yeah.
And so here's Bob Lucas, right? You want to know Bob Lucas adults. Go to them. You can see, this is Bob Lucas adults. You can see the census tracts that are most dense. This is the divided by this many heaps.
That's fascinating.
Yeah.
Can we have access to those?
Zoom out and zoom in.
I
Yeah.
would love to
That is
just study those a little bit.
Fascinating, yeah.
Yeah, it's cool. And I'm gonna eventually have to, probably by November, just do screenshots, because this is made off Google Fusion Tables, which is being discontinued, I think, in November. So yeah, we can get these to you all.
Please, yeah.
Can play with them.
Love to get those.
Was there anything that you wanted to mention, Rita, Cindy? Okay.
I had a comment real quick, and a comment and a question. The comment is, and Jason was there, I believe Jonathan was yesterday, trying to get this young man out of the Bob Lucas branch who was just drooling all over that 27-inch. We couldn't get him out, and he was just all over this thing. Oh, this is so cool.
He's like
So
trying the keyboard.
it was really interesting to see a young person, looking at this hardware, and just really demonstrating their appreciation for it. So just a little something for you to know. It was a good reaction. Another good one I had the other day was my neighbor up the street with two small children had just come back from a 3D printing session over at the here, I guess, and had made a cute little box, and she could just hardly wait to show it to me. So these little episodes, library episodes, happen outside the library sometime. I just thought you should know about it. But my question to you is, are we ever in trouble when it comes to people trying to put malware on our computer or try to hack into us, anything like that?
Yeah, our computers are using a DNS service called OpenDNS, and it all goes through there in terms of the filtering angles. Okay, that's better. So, alright, yeah, so it's going through that DNS service, and it's protecting from all the SEPA, all the SEPA compliant related stuff. In addition to that, our systems have an antivirus on them through Windows Defender, plus they're sandboxed, so when they restart, everything's wiped out. So even if malware got on there by chance, that restart the computer, it's all erased.
Okay, thanks.
That's interesting.
Well, who knew this would be the most interesting report?
Right.
Absolutely.
Nobody's even gonna remember that we're hiring a director.
Oh, wow.
Can I check out an invisibility cloak from the library?
It's tough to
Not
get
yet.
the circulation.
That technology does exist though, I've seen it, it makes the light bend around.
He's cool. I'm telling you, he's just too cool.
Wait, look at this, it's just sitting up here.
No, I just brought it to you.
Oh, okay, I didn't even see, you're like a ninja. This is it, the mobile hotspot. It's in a little case, they check it out, here's the hotspot, they power it on, and then there's their password they have to plug in when they connect to SSID. It's on Sprint service. Yeah. So, thanks
What a
for
great report, Christopher, thanks a lot.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah, I just can't imagine trying to do all this stuff with a farmed out IT department, so thank goodness that we have one.
My
in-house
IT
like
guys are gonna
this.
get so much grief, because there's like 10 of them and they can't do half of this stuff.
It's got your plugs.
Nice job, thank you very much. All right, we are on to
Look at that.
financial reports, so I'll let Nicole handle that.
This is too cool.
Nicole has the floor.
I'm sorry. We're just still amazed over here, so we'll catch up in a minute.
This is the second time I've had to follow Christopher. It's always a huge downer. So nothing really significant to report for June. We did receive the second installment from the Friends of the Library. They gave us a check for $11,500, so thanks very much to the Friends. And we did make our OPEB payment in June, the other post-employment benefit liability payment of $59,000. By paying the explicit subsidy portion, we're able to lower our liability and still maintain our discount rate. I want to say it's 6% by paying that subsidy. I won't have final figures for June until we complete the financial audit. So I have the auditors scheduled. I'm just waiting to hear on a date. It'll either be end of September or early October, so hopefully we can have the audit ready for the October board meeting.
Anticipated my question when they were going to be here.
I was just wanted to ask you, I'm noticing that for June, our legal fees are almost 15, and if I'm recalling, we're budgeting 10. So I just wanted to know kind of what our trend line looks like for that.
Oh, we're under, I think I mentioned that last board meeting. We're under what we budgeted for last fiscal year.
Great.
So, yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of a final number, right, for the legal expenses for the year, is the one that you've got posted in there?
Yes.
Subject to any changes that might come up in the line.
Perfect.
So what we're looking at, when you look at year over year, or our performance against the revised budget that we did, is that we beat that budget as of now until we have the audit to make sure of that, right?
Yes.
Okay, and no more revenue anticipated, no more tax payments of any sort that will trickle in?
I don't believe so, but there's always a chance.
Okay.
Can I ask?
I mean,
Yeah.
we should all, I think you executed well the revised budget. I have to, my applause to the staff for making sure that happened. That was just terrific.
Terry, can I ask one question? I was curious on page 28, under insurance, why we're so far under budget. I was expecting that to be not under budget. Is there a good, easy way to?
It's not under, actually, I don't usually separate out earthquake from regular insurance, and that year I did. So the total is 45,000 for both of those.
I see. Thank you.
Oh, so we
That
just
makes
swap it
sense.
down to the next line. Okay.
Yeah.
So does it show 100%? Yeah. it
So
does.
in terms of one more question for you, Nicole, in terms of the budget committee getting together again, because we'd like to do it, to take a look back on this year, obviously, you don't think that's going to happen now until October, you think? Because the audit will take place sometime in October? Did I get that right?
They'll do their preliminary work end of September or early October, and then it would be ready to present at
Okay.
the October meeting.
So let's stay in contact over the next few weeks about when a logical time for the budget committee to convene, because every month I've been saying, well, nothing yet, and it really would be nice to do a drill down and a look back on that, how we did last year with all of the headwinds that we had. So that's great. Any other questions? All right. So next is the facilities committee. Thanks, Nicole.
Alrighty. So, there were some copies made of a bit of a spreadsheet. I don't know if folks got a chance to get copies of that were not included in the initial board report. So I just want to take a minute just to kind of catch people up on what the ad hoc committee has been up to. As folks know, the board approved a budget to hire a consulting firm. And the main goal is to really put together a phased-in plan for us to approach all of our significant facilities. So obviously at the heart of that is the facilities assessment report that we're all aware of. Obviously, that's now becoming dated, but we also wanted to just frankly expand that. So, looking at updating and maximizing our Bob Lucas facility, making sure we've caught up with all of our accessibility compliance issues, and then really just setting it up so that we can start really figuring out how we're going to be able to budget and approach financing all of this. So we've done an extensive process, of all of the firms that responded to the RFP. Frankly, invited input from beyond just the ad hoc committee. So when we were doing the interviews and doing these assessments, we brought in Jonathan, obviously, our facilities manager, and then importantly included Diana, the branch manager as well. Since there's going to be a lot specific to that branch. So what you'll see here is, we came down to two local companies, Gruen and Associates and ARG, and you can see in the numbers here they scored extremely close in the assessments that we did. But just to remind folks too, like how the board approved this process, it's similar to the other consultants, wherein the board approved leading it up to the ad hoc committee to make a final decision. So what we've decided is we've decided to go with ARG, but I did want to just say a couple of things about, even though the score is extremely close, what really kind of made us feel comfortable with this decision, I would say one, in the interview, the enthusiastic approach that they took to the community engagement side of this. So included in this contract is two community town hall meetings, one of which I know we're going to be working with Katie and her team to try and incorporate with one of the town halls for the strategic planning committee as well, since a lot of this does overlap. And then the second piece that I think kind of put it over the top for us was they frankly paid special attention to Bob Lucas. When they were doing the walkthrough of the facilities and in the interviews, I think they took to heart, and I think it was clear to them how important the branch library is to the board and to the community. And in their presentation, in some of their initial plans, it was obvious they really took that to heart. So I think those are the two issues that really kind of put it over the top for us as an ad hoc committee. And then, we really checked in on the references. They were all glowing, so it really strongly supported what we were already kind of, our gut feeling on this, and that the references were all glowing. I think what says a lot for ARGs, if you looked at some of their initial response, they were responsible for the guest in the Welcome Center at the Huntington Library and everything that entails and interaction with all the stakeholders. So really looking forward to working with them. Once this is all fully approved, we're looking at between a 12 and 16 week timeline from start to finish. So, by the end of the year, hopefully, the plan is we will have a fully detailed plan in place, and then we can start looking at the immediate next steps on that. So.
I will just throw in a comment or two on them too. With the project managers from Altadena, she's a woman that lives here that has a child that goes to school here, so she's got a real direct connection to the community. And the principals in the firm are pretty experienced, so they've got a pretty deep bench of contractors, and also seem to have a pretty good handle on steering us toward grant money and things like this that we could get our hands on. I think we were all in general agreement that this was going to be the best one. Jonathan actually was leaning toward the other firm, but it was great to have staff's input on this, because now they're starting to get involved, and this is feeling more and more like a reality. The next step, of course, is as a board, we need to start considering how we're going to raise funds for this and how we're going to go to our support groups and ask them for some help as well. But it'll be an interesting and I think very rewarding journey by the time we're done with this.
And then I guess the one other thing I just want to make sure to highlight, because I know a lot of folks in the community are going to want to be paying close attention to this with the amount of kind of work and upgrade and construction we'll be talking about. Both firms, but ARG as well, have a tremendous amount of history specific to working on historical buildings and historical architecture, and a lot of history with doing upgrades, accessibility issues, all of that, but still maintaining the architecture and the history of the building. And that was important to us for very obvious reasons as well.
That's awesome. So over the course of the next couple of weeks, let's figure out a time where you and I and anybody else can coordinate and try to wrap together what's happening on the strategic planning calendar to make sure that we're setting the groundwork for whatever your guys need.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay,
for sure.
Perfect.
All right, the next is the Executive Search Committee, and you know our current status on that one, unless you have something to add.
Don't we need to act on this? Don't we need to act to select this? You're recommending this to us as your...
No,
It
Jason
says
described the
action.
process in which, do we have an action item for that?
It says
D2, selection of architectural consultant.
Okay, let's take a vote on that then.
Let's just do that.
Let's
Yeah.
just do that.
Yeah, let's go ahead.
Can
Go
I
ahead.
do it since I'm the one who found it?
Sure. I move that we ratify the recommendation of the Facilities Committee for the selection of ARG as our architectural consultant.
Second.
We both second that.
Okay, well, second, an abundance of seconds, that's good.
With
So all in
deep
favor,
appreciation
please
to the...
raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
All right, thank you very much. All right, any words at all on the executive search that haven't been said, Bessie?
No.
Okay.
You know what we're doing.
All right, on to strategic planning.
Oh my God, we're doing so much. So I do have to apologize for not having a written report this month. It's because I was doing a lot of strategic planning work and it just literally did not happen. So we are in the thick of it. I want to thank the entire board for coming to our town hall last week or the week before or whatever. I've lost track of time in the haze of strategic planning, but thank you all for being there. It was really meaningful and so helpful to have each of you at a table facilitating those conversations, and I think it meant a lot to all the people who were there. So really appreciate it in what I know is already a very busy season for us, so thank you for that. Just a sort of 10,000-foot view on where we are in the process. So we have completed the first sort of installment of strategic work, and in our weekly call today, Cindy and I got sort of a summary of our first point in time deliverables. So I want to assure you guys that we're getting all the things that are generated by people at our town halls, all the materials from discussions with staff are being documented, and we're going to have access to all of that documentation, but they're also being synthesized into reports after each sort of installment of this, which will eventually form the appendix to our strategic planning document. So we'll have, sort of, the historian in me would say, primary source evidence for the decisions we're making. We'll be able to go back and see directly how the choices that we're making in our strategic plan link right back to direct feedback that we're getting from the community and input that we're getting from staff. I also want to thank the staff for their time and attention. We had 2 days of work during this first trip where the leadership team as well as all staff met with our consultants and went through a whole bunch of really interesting work about the idea of directed storytelling, which is like, how do we basically start to gather the individual user experiences from people who are coming through our library and start to construct an experience that will directly address those needs. So they're in the process of collecting that data for us in some really interesting ways. We're putting together a community survey that will go out hopefully during the month of September, so anybody who hasn't been able to come to a town hall or participate in another way will be able to weigh in with our community survey online, similar to the way that we did for the executive search process. So we hope to have that finalized soon. And I was able to go and kind of give a quick update to the town council on Tuesday of this past week about our strategic planning work and what we're doing. And I wanted to bring back 2 things to all of you on that front. One was just general appreciation from the council. They said, it's been a long time since we've heard anything from the library, and this is the best news we could possibly imagine. And they really appreciated all the work that is going into it on the board side, on the staff side, and so they're looking forward to partnering with us more effectively. And to that end, we're going to try to set up basically a coffee with town council representatives during the next strategic planning trip and invite them to participate and tell us what their thoughts are, just to try to build those partnerships more effectively, across town with all of our partner organizations. So I would say strategic planning is going a million miles an hour right now, but we're on track and everything looks really good. And just thank you all again for all the input and participation.
Thank you.
All right, any questions? So, is there anything to report regarding the California Voters' Right Act?
Not this month, no.
Is that something we need to just retire for a while, you think, in terms of?
No, we can leave it on there as, it's an ad hoc committee, so it should show up on there, but what we're basically waiting for is a proposal from our demographer. So, that'll let us know kind of what we're looking at in terms of scope and budget and timeline. So hopefully we'll get that in the next month or 2.
Okay. All right, trustee reports. And Katie, I'd like to ask you to go first and give us a report on what happened
okay.
on Sunday. That was a terrific event.
Yeah, well, so first of all, thank you everybody who came out. Terry and Jason and Jonathan certainly, who was a rock star.
Gwen was there too.
Gwen was there. It was a big group. We so we had
I think we almost burnt out the AC.
We did, yeah. We almost, yeah. Whew, yeah. We definitely exceeded our fire code allowance for Bob Lucas. So I'm thrilled to report that we had over 100 attendees for our Hidden Histories event at Bob Lucas Library, and it was so cool to see that library packed full of people on a Sunday afternoon. We had 11 or 12 different community organizations that were there, as everybody from the sheriff to CHP, NBBA, town council, the chamber, Mapfre neighborhood. I mean, just everybody from across town who could make it was there. Day one was there and provided ice cream for our ice cream social part. And we were thrilled to be able to feature 2 living relatives of Bob Lucas in our first session, who talked about their relationship with Bob Lucas, who he was, you know, sort of what he was like as a person. So we had Shirley Wright, who was his first cousin, and, Shirley Ward, who was his first cousin, and Letitia Wright, who's his granddaughter. The goal was to, you know, to really center and highlight the stories of communities of color in Altadena, with the hope of creating a more diverse and vibrant collection of oral histories in partnership with Town Council and with Altadena Historical Society. And I'm excited to tell you, they're sitting on my kitchen table right now, that a lot of people said, yeah, I have a story that I want to share, or I know someone in my family or a neighbor who does. And a lot of people also said, yeah, I really want to get involved and find out how to collect those stories. So we've got more than enough material, certainly for an ongoing project, and I think a lot of enthusiasm for subsequent events, for follow-on events, for more ways to start to bring some of the, you know, the different threads that make up our town's history together. And thank you really, again, to Jonathan for being there, making it happen, schlepping all of the, everything over, all of these chairs you see in here were at Bob Lucas yesterday, and now they are in this room. So thank you so much, and to our partner organizations as well, Town Council and Historical, for making it happen. It was a really exciting and really deeply moving event.
Anybody else?
I mean, I just want to give a shout out on that too. I mean, there's obvious for those of us that were there, like a tremendous amount of work went into it. And I think Katie mentioned earlier, you know, building partnerships with the town council, and I think that event is a perfect example. I know Veronica Jones put in a tremendous amount of work as well to make it happen. And it's the stories are amazing. I mean, we had family there who were interned in the camps, Japanese camps during World War II, and their stories of how they ended up living in Altadena, and you know, finding out that Bob Lucas has written numerous books under a pseudonym that nobody knew about. Like, it's just an amazing event, and I think you know, something we definitely need to keep going and get those archived, and working with the Historical Society as well. So, yeah, great event.
It was a wonderful event. The thing that impressed me more was that a number of people there, some had never been in the Bob Lucas Library, and the other part of that is that there were people there that don't normally come to the library, and so it was great to see some of those people. Well, suffice it to say, it's great to see them.
It was really cool.
Yeah, it was a great turnout, standing room only, hot. But not to worry, everybody got some ice cream, and it was a wonderful affair, so thanks so much.
Yeah, I just would say it's the first time in 30 years plus living in Altadena that I've seen what the community can look like when it comes together like that, so it was terrific.
Yeah, it was, I'm sorry, I'm just still really pumped about it. Yeah, it was exciting to see a room full of people that look like the community that we live in, you know, and to see that physically gather together to hear stories, and to see people sort of remembering a common history of when swimming pools were only open to people of color on certain days, and sort of talking about that as people are sharing stories. It was just really powerful to see, and yeah, I was very grateful to be a part of it.
Yeah, it was great. Anything, Betsy? Good. Okay, unfinished business. Oh, now we get the Brown Act. We're counting the months now. I think we got a few more to go.
We did look back at the resolution for how long we needed to go through December.
Whoa, all right.
December.
It's gonna be a challenge to, yeah, even just putting this together. So this is a quiz. I I tried to make it really easy because Terry said, don't throw any wrenches in there, and it was actually really difficult. Christopher did it and got 4 out of 6. Jonathan got 2 out of 6, so we'll see how you guys do.
It's too nice.
Theoretically, you should be able to beat me on this.
Yeah,
Theoretically.
we'll see. Okay. So, which of the following is not a type of Brown Act meeting?
E.
Yeah, that's not a thing.
Final answer? Okay, yes.
She was answering for all
They
of
all-
us.
Yeah, they're all
Yes,
correct.
They're all
yes.
Right.
Okay,
Ooh,
so,
no, false. No, you cannot do that.
everyone agrees? Good. There's that. Moving on.
B.
Yeah,
Me.
72.
Okay, good. You guys are doing great. Not even struggling, not even thinking about it.
Like we follow the Brown Act.
So this has some information before the question.
Is that a trick question?
Yeah, it must be.
I'm gonna say A.
I think that's right.
I think I'm gonna say A.
I think that's true.
Yes.
Whew, God.
Sorry.
Oh, that was a nail biter. What they-
A.
A.
Yeah.
Oh, well, Ben.
Well, wait,
C.
but no, but
No, wait, wait, don't tell
hang
me
on,
when
hang
I'm
on,
gonna.
It's must be allowed, and I think because like, some places do it differently. And so I think the law permits you to do either, but our practice is to do before.
Well, if it was a rhythm in which it was moved and seconded, right? So I can see that.
I'll just tell you it's C, because I want to keep my job, and,
C.
I think
So.
we still got that right.
yeah.
Okay.
You guys, I'll give it to you.
Thanks.
Okay, I think this is the last question, right? Yeah.
A. Technically it permits closed sessions, it doesn't require them, but yeah.
First.
Okay, so Katie's right. Best practice is
Oh my God.
to only hold a closed session when it's absolutely necessary. The Brown Act does permit you to hold a closed session,
Doesn't require-
but you don't have to.
Okay.
Yes.
That's a
I thought
return
I
on
was-
investment for sending her
I
to
thought
that
I
thing in
was
San
just
Diego.
being a real tool. I was
You
awesome.
guys did way better than both Christopher and I.
No, thank you.
Congratulations.
We know the Brown Act.
BB&K would be so proud of us.
Yes.
They better be watching this live.
Thanks, Kylan. That was great.
I can't wait to see what September and October.
More quizzes coming your way.
Yeah, trickier and trickier questions.
Okay, now we're on to new business, review and approval of the updated, what was the word we had?
Review of the resolution.
The resolution
Yeah,
for
'cause
the
we're
updated.
approving our resolution.
So what you have before you is a resolution that would, asking for your approval of the updated retention schedule, which was last updated by the board in 2006, so long overdue. BB&K has reviewed this, of all the different options that are available to us. They took the ones, or they gave us the ones that are most applicable to the district and added some. So some of these may not apply to us, but they thought that it was better to include just in case. So what this does is allow us to go through our boxes of materials, printed materials, and do some shredding with your approval. And that's about it. It's pretty comprehensive. It took a while. Isaac Rosen from BB&K, who helped you with your policies, reviewed this. And like I said, I think it's pretty comprehensive.
I just had one question. I'm just, so this
much here.
incredibly detailed spreadsheet, I'm just trying to understand what exactly we're adopting, because there's a few different ones here. where it has like it'll list like the minimum legal requirement, but then it'll have like a Secretary of State guideline that's longer.
Yeah, and we're going by the Secretary of State.
Okay, so if there's a longer one, we're gonna default to the
Right.
longer one. Got it.
Well, if it's from the Secretary of State.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, so, okay.
I'm sorry, this might be a dumb question, but, so, with our electronic records retention policy, this just covers all the categories, no matter what format they're held in, right? So it doesn't matter if they're print, if they're digital, but I mean, I know there's like recordings, video and audio and stuff, but.
So, yeah, we'll, that's the
I
next
know-
agenda.
I know we're gonna get to that,
that's the-
yeah.
But no, it's a good question, and that is the next agenda item to talk about electronic, but yes, this applies to any format.
Okay, this is exceedingly comprehensive, it's awesome.
And it is required, requires that we put this on the website. I mean, this is something that we should have had on the website.
Yeah, we're required by law to have it there.
My question is, how much work is involved here? Is this a big project for organizing it and so on?
Well, Kylan has, Kylan and Nicole will be overseeing this. I mean, what inspired this is we cleaned up, we did some cleanup in the downstairs area, and we realized there were boxes and boxes and boxes of things that, financial records, HR records, and we did bank receipts, I mean, going way back when. And so, it's going to require some more work. Nicole and Kylan, no doubt, and probably Michaela and Christopher will be working on this. Kylan has found a shredding company that can actually come in and take the materials and shred them for us, or store them for us as well, if we still have an abundance of materials. But right now, we're focused on the elimination of the records that we don't need to keep.
Well, I'd like to express my appreciation for you doing that. This is a big job, and it looks like it won't be all that stimulating most of the time, so thank you very much for doing that.
Can I ask one more question? This is a question about the resolution. So I noticed in section 4 of the resolution that we're basically ceding any authority to ever look at this again. So it says like you can update or amend it or whatever. Is that, does that make this policy occupy a unique space among our other policies that require board approval, or is that a standard languaging that kind of is consistent?
I think it's standard, I mean, assuming that, I mean, this doesn't say we'll never update this again.
Right.
We would probably, I mean, no doubt we will come to you when we get to the shredding point.
Right. No, I think the sentence I'm just curious about that struck me as unusual is, in addition, the executive director are authorized to update or amend the records retention schedule as needed without further approval from the board in order to stay current, as well as any other regulations regarding records retention. So it just struck me as interesting that there was a sentence about like it doesn't need to come back, which is probably fine. I mean, if the state changes some regulation, you don't need board approval every time.
Right, and I mean, that was my reading of this. If there's
Right.
one change,
Right.
yeah, and you don't bring that, if there's multiple changes, I would think it would be at the discretion of the director to bring it to you, and I would suggest that they would.
Yeah, I would also, but
Like for our purposes, we bring every.
I know that's a practice, but the language doesn't, it's probably fine.
I mean, I can go back to BB&K and make it more specific, as in, giving a minimum number of changes.
Let's
or-
save some money. It's fine. It's not a big deal. I was just curious.
Yeah, I would say if BBK looked at it and recommended it,
Yeah.
I didn't see anything that kind of blew it out for me, and it was okay.
Can I ask something, Terry? The fact that it took from 2006 till now to update this makes me wonder, is there something that should go in the resolution that says that it will be reviewed every X number of years, or approved again every X number of years, or just something built into the process that will automatically, we would hope, cause this to not languish so long next time? I don't know.
I was just gonna say that was the last time, because we checked when the Secretary of State updated their guidelines.
Oh.
So I'm sure we were doing it, when they did
When
that's a good idea, at least every 5 years. I mean, I don't think it changes substantially over the years, but.
Just eyeballs on it every 5 years, kinda.
I would go with that.
Do we want to ask VB&K to incorporate that sort of language and then
Bring it
we
back
go
next-
ahead and approve it now, basically, and then sign it
Based on
later?
that.
With that amendment, yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
The 5-year review.
5-year?
I think that seems reasonable. Unless they recommend for some reason, given the frequency with which the legislature amends things, that it be 3 or 6 or whatever.
Okay, that's good.
So I move that we approve the resolution with the amendment specified.
I'll second that.
Okay, so moved and seconded to approve it with that amendment, and all in favor, please raise your hand and say aye.
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 And motion passes. Thank you.
All right, then the next one goes to Katie's question about electronic communication. So when we were going through this with Isaac, he said, you know, we can either incorporate the electronic communication within this policy that we just talked about, but since it's inclusive of not only the library, but the board, the Friends, and the foundation, that it should be something that perhaps requires a little more review on your part. So what you have in front of you is the policy as suggested by BD&K. It's not necessarily based on the state retention policies or Public Records Act law. It's what BD&K is suggesting is best practice. So there may be some things in here that after you review it, and we'll discuss it next month, but after you review it, might be considered too onerous. Christopher, as the IT person, has looked at it in terms of what's possible. But, you know, and the other reason that we wanted to hold off, at least for this month, in terms of reviewing it or approving it, is because it would have to be something that you would amend in your policies to refer back to this, since it does talk about the board as well as the library and what your obligation is. But basically, everything is referred in terms of official, it talks about official documents and what official documents are on electronic communication, and that really would refer back to the policy that we just discussed. So, but it does also protect you in terms of the Public Records Act, because we, in most cases, it's 2 years, I think, that you have to keep the electronic format, and it really is good practice not to keep years and years and years and years of electronic communication. So, with that, this is for your information. We'll bring it back next month. If you have questions that I can refer to BB&K during the month, please send them my way or ask them right now.
Yeah, I will admit that I have not had the time to go through this comprehensively, but what I'm gonna do is go back and look through what we approved in our new board policies, this one, and the retention schedule that you guys have in the spreadsheet, and just make sure that everything is pretty copacetic, which on first glance, I think it is. But we just wanna make sure, I think, in our board policies that we spell out exactly what people need to do, so if we have somebody new come on board, they understand like what the expectations are.
Yeah, that was gonna be my question, is how we triangulate on that, so thanks a lot for doing that.
And
Katie.
if we need to amend it, then we'll have a resolution next month that says, we'll amend the board policies to say, da-da-da-da-da.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Can I just say for my own purposes, I mean, I did read this, but, it's only been a day or two.
Yeah.
And so, giant capital letters with a star, I think for all of us, homework, really read it and think about how we would actually, how it will affect how we actually do business, and bring back those kind of questions next time. That would be important.
Right, thanks for that work, sending that information. And now we're on to C, the approval for library closures on September the 19th and 20th.
Okay, so as you know, we're going through a strategic planning process, and the next step is happening, or the next facilitated conversations are in September. And so, working with Margaret Sullivan Studios, they are suggesting that we do 2 staff workshops, one on the 19th of September and one on the 20th of September. And in order to really do this effectively, it would mean that we would need to close the library in order to do that. Katie and I also had a discussion this morning with Margaret and her staff about possibly on one or two of these days bringing in, what do we call it, a workshop or a coffee or a tea
Yeah,
with the town council.
Open house.
Open house with the town council on one of these days. So that would be something that we would add to everything that we were doing on the 19th and 20th. And we are also, for the foundation and Friends people that are in the audience, going to be sending the foundation and the Friends some options for 3 different dates, so we can ensure that we have good participation from the foundation and the Friends during this September 19th through 22nd, I guess. Because the studios, Margaret Sullivan Studios will be with us Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Sunday, they will be meeting with the community committee. But anyway, this particular request is to close the library on those 2 days. Normally you close on Indigenous Peoples' Day for staff development, and the thought is that we wouldn't close. What is the date of that? I don't remember it offhand. Yeah, so in October. I didn't want to put it in writing because you're getting a new director, and that new director may want to do some kind of staff development and may come to you with another request to close for a day, but for the time being, we're thinking that would be one day that we won't close, that we normally close.
Right, sounds good. Any questions? All right, can you get a motion to approve this closure?
So,
Second.
All right, so moved and seconded to approve this closure. All in favor, please raise your hand and say aye.
aye.
The motion carries. Thank you.
And the next one, Nicole will be coming.
Okay, so in front of you, you should have the resolution of intention that was approved at the last board meeting. In addition, you have a draft amendment to our CalPERS contract and then 2 certification forms that need signature. And I apologize that the forms weren't ready at the last meeting. I spoke to my contact in the CalPERS contracts department, and I guess they were significantly downsized this fiscal year. So it's just one woman now, she's a one-woman show. So she was able to get all the documents ready for this meeting, and then as soon as we have these certification documents signed, in 20 days, she'll have the final contract ready to go for approval at the September meeting.
And the reason for this is because in the staff reorganization, we upgraded the janitor position from part-time to full-time, so this brings him on board with CalPERS.
And there are no substantive changes from the last time we discussed this, right? Everything's just pretty much the ratification of that.
Yes, we just needed the draft amendment. You'll notice on that, it's page 76 of the board package. Section 5 shows the excluded positions. So it says safety employees and Paige Gardner, library clerk 1. It used to say custodian there, so that has been removed.
And just from my own memory, so A and B, everything enumerated there are exclusively part-time positions for us, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, they're all 19 hours a week or less.
Okay, perfect.
Just a curious note for me, I noticed that when it was signed initially in 1969, it went 25 years without any changes at all. I wouldn't expect you to know all about that. But it seems as if the revisions to this picked up a little bit beginning in the 2010s. It just seems like a kind of a contract that you get and you just keep it forever unless you want to make these minor changes, right? Okay.
CalPERS did change significantly in 2013, so there have been a lot of changes since then.
Okay.
And this is going to cover any full-time employee.
This particular amendment is just to remove the exclusion for custodian.
Okay.
But all our full-time people are covered by CalPERS right now.
Okay.
And there's nothing retroactive about this, we discussed that already, okay. All right, any more questions? Okay, can I get a motion then to approve this CalPERS amendment?
So moved.
Second.
Second, it's been moved and seconded to approve this contract, and all in favor, please raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
Aye. That motion carries. Thank you. Now we're on to E.
Another Nicole item.
Okay, so in front of you, you have a staff report and a resolution regarding LAIF, which is the Local Agency Investment Fund, and I spoke about it a little bit at the last board meeting. What this will allow us to do is invest our funds with the Local Agency Investment Fund instead of with the county treasury pool, which ends up costing us a little bit less because LAIF only collects on what we earn, the interest that is earned, rather than the total funds in the pool, which is what the county does. So it ends up overall costing us less, and it's a lot more convenient. It's a lot easier to get money in and out of the county and to see updated balances in real time rather than waiting on a statement at the end of every month. There's a lot of information from LAIF, that's why it's such a long report. But really, there's no fiscal impact. It's going to cost us less, it's going to earn us a little bit more, and it's going to be a lot more convenient.
Yeah, I noticed it seemed like almost the main advantage would be to get your money a little quicker and easier, which is good.
No downside whatsoever, right?
Not as far as I can see. Every
That's
agency
what it
that
seemed like
I've
when I
spoken
read.
to recommends LAIF very highly.
Got it, okay.
There was one. Go ahead.
Okay,
A motion, make a motion to approve?
I'll second it.
Oh, I
and
had just one
discuss.
question though before we do that. And that is, it did have a section by the middle of the paragraph on the middle of the page, on the second page. It talked about the right of a city, county, special district, et cetera, to withdraw deposit money from LAIF upon demand may not be altered, impaired, or denied in any way by any state official or state agency. And that seemed to be a little wordy, and I couldn't quite figure that one out. Is that just a standard disclaimer or something, as far as you know?
I believe so. It was the same actually for CalTrust when we opened a CalTrust account that we never ultimately used, but it was the same language.
Isn't that just saying we can get our money even if the legislature doesn't have a budget passed?
Yeah, I guess that's the way you should interpret it, but I just wanted to make sure.
Good.
It's very cool.
And it's very interesting that how many participants here are using it and how it has grown over the years. That's really impressive there.
Yeah, that is. All right, I'm sorry, I interrupted the motion there, so.
Go ahead.
Do we have a motion to, I guess we had it moved and seconded, so
Yep.
now it's okay. All in favor, please raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
That motion carries, thanks. Then the revised job description?
I brought a couple of job descriptions to you based on the organizational changes that we've made. This is the very last one, and it's building projects manager. When we did the upgrades, it was primarily because people in the positions were doing more than was actually in their job description, and that is definitely the case of the building projects manager, who that position is currently held by Jonathan. So what this update does is include the supervisory experience that he has, and so the most comprehensive change in the document. There's some minor changes throughout it, but the core responsibilities of facilities and grounds. A lot of that language is taken from a former position of, what was it called? Building maintenance supervisor, and that was the position that we eliminated and consolidated into this position. The position, the building projects manager, was first created for the purposes of overseeing the 2016-17 renovation. And obviously, that's evolved since that time into what it is today.
All right, any discussion about that?
No, my only comment would be that I think this looks great, but that in thinking about it as a job description, Jonathan, you can never leave because we would never find anybody who could do all these things.
We are very fortunate.
We are, yeah, so.
All right, is there a motion then to approve this job description?
I'll move that.
And I'll second it.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve. All in favor, please raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
All right, and that motion carries. Thanks.
Extensive, isn't
And
it?
now we are to the very last one, if I'm reading this right.
All right.
Yep, and this is the district director's salary revision. Will you take us through that, Cindy?
Sure. So everyone knows we're in the process of hiring a permanent director. And throughout the process, we have recognized that Altadena's salaries are below market. We are moving forward with an HR firm to look at all of our salaries, but since we're in the midst of hiring a new director, we thought it would behoove us to take a look at other comparable libraries. So we did that, and in your packet there is a comparison of, I think, 13 libraries, 13 cities, and what we decided, or what we talked about doing, was coming up with an average of those 13 comparable cities and creating a salary range by which the recruitment firm from Avery, Paul Kimura from Avery, would have a parameter by which to negotiate the contract. So the new scale would run from 99.40 to 12.84 to 97.40, no, to 99.40. Our lowest rate was a little higher than the average city, to 13,875. There's also attached to the packet a revised salary schedule that includes these numbers at the top.
Okay, and I think the numbers themselves of the survey that you did of the other library really tells the story. So, any discussion about this?
It's about 11, I mean, at the top step, our salary is about 11% lower than the average. And this is accounting for smaller libraries in 3 districts. It's not accounting for the bigger libraries like Long Beach or Santa Monica, where the salaries are even higher than this.
Yeah, I mean, I'd just say, like, I appreciate having the comps, because if we're gonna recruit and retain somebody really qualified, we've gotta be competitive with the other library systems in which they might work, or, you know, or could find jobs. So I think it's critical that we do this, but I do wanna highlight that it's part of a larger effort to make sure that our compensation across the board is fair and comparable, and that we are, you know, at least a competitive place to work, in the sort of larger Los Angeles region, because our staff are awesome and we should pay them well.
Right, you have a motion to approve this?
I'll move it.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded then to approve this new salary range for the director. And all in favor, please say, raise your hand and say aye.
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 All right, and that motion carries. Thanks very much. So with that, we are to proposed, I'm sorry, any correspondence? I didn't see anything in the packet. Okay. And then finally, proposed future agenda items.
So one quick thing that sort of we've talked about already would be the update to the board policies on record retention and basically like electronic communication best practices. So an update on that. And then I figured as long as we're checking in with our old friend, the board policies, it might be a nice time next month to swap over from Robert's rules to Rosenberg's rules, which are the sort of simplified, streamlined procedure outlined by League of California Cities. The only thing I think to know is that we basically follow them now, because 95% of what's in Robert's rules are for big parliamentary organizations, which has no impact on us. So Rosenberg's is designed for smaller groups like ours. I think I sent those out a while ago, but I'll BCC everybody again with a copy just so you can take a look. And we'll include them in the board packet for next month. But I think, you know, just a resolution recommending that we make that our kind of standard operating procedure, which is functionally what we do now anyway, would be good.
Yeah, if you could send it again, because I will admit I did not look at that. I'm so sorry. I hope that the way we're conducting it is, you know, kind of aligns with that new rule book too.
Good to go.
Okay, any other things to add? Go ahead, Cindy.
Yeah, I did want to let you know that we did receive the RFP responses for a new bank and also the HR firm that can help with the compensation studies and the job audits that we've been proposing, but we didn't have enough time to really review and get referrals or references, so we will bring that back next month.
Okay, thank you. All right, if there's nothing else, I would ask for a motion to adjourn.
I love that. We adjourn.
Second.
Moved and seconded that we adjourn. Now, all in favor, please raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
All right, so we are adjourned at 8:23.
Thank you.